Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor. Adjust the camera a touch. We are going to talk about Timeless Season 2, Episodes 9 and 10, because they aired together. Episode 9 is The General, Episode 10 is Chinatown, so full spoilers for the episodes as always. So, cliffhanger.
Yeah, that was a ballsy move, wasn't it? I mean, it's worth noting that it's not cancelled yet. There's a possibility for renewal. They said they were going to wait and see how it performed after this airs.
No, I think the creators were saying it was 50-50. It was 50-50, so we'll see what happens. I will say,
still, I feel like they should have taken a bit safer given the situation last year.
Well, see, I think they did. I'll explain what I mean by that. I think the cliffhanger this year works better if it never gets picked up compared to the cliffhanger from last year. Last year's cliffhanger felt like, no matter what, this has to be continued. This year's feels a bit more like, the adventures continue even after the show's finished kind of vibe.
You think?
No, maybe not to the same extent that, say, Ash vs. Evil Dead ended with, because if everyone's seen that show, the way that ended was like, hey, look at all these fancy adventures he's going to have after the show's done. This kind of felt like that to an extent. Not exactly the same, because there's definitely elements of it that feel like they have to be picked up on. But
yeah,
it doesn't feel like it's just dangling into the nether sort of time, for lack of a better expression.
It's not introducing something entirely new. I'll give you that.
No, you can almost read it almost as a joke ending of like... We'll get to why I'd say that when we get to
it very much feels like the sort of thing I'd expect to see at the end of a movie.
Yes. This is like sequel bait, but it's okay if we never get a sequel.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of okay.
It's more okay than it was last year. Last year, when I thought we weren't getting any more, I felt like, oh, we're introducing that and then leaving the mothers in Rittenhouse and like.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But hey, so I feel like the actual. It's funny actually having these two together, because I feel like episode 9 is going to get the short shaft here, because the actual plot of going back to Civil War and helping Harriet Tubman, like, I mean, it's fine and it's enjoyable and there's some nice moments for Rufus, but ultimately it's not that important to what we really want to talk about given these two episodes.
It's kind of weird to me that this was aired as a double, because they're not really a double episode, are they?
I feel this is a scheduling thing. They wanted it done by a certain time.
Yeah, because the episode 9 is just it's another episode, right?
Yeah,
not in a bad way. It's fun, it's enjoyable. It's what we've just had for the past 8 weeks.
But it has a huge cliffhanger at the end. Obviously, like, hey, come back for the finale next week.
Right, exactly.
Because that's the big thing. Like, they tell Christopher and Mason tell everyone about the photo of Jessica. Like, well, I mean, Flynn's not there. In fact, I actually laughed quite a lot in the start of episode 10 when they bring up the photo and he's like, "Photo? I never heard about this photo." Let's go. No one told me this because we thought you might just shoot her. It's like, well, given what's happened, maybe that would have been the best move. So that was cracking me up. Flynn was actually quite funny in these two episodes, but so they tell it, like, all the rest of them, they'll find out about the photos, and it gets quite heated quite quick because obviously Wyatt starts defending Jessica. Like, no, she's not Rittenhouse. She can't be Rittenhouse, and everyone kind of agrees. No, like, it's a possibility. They might just be monitoring her for something else. Like, they might just be having an eye on her, and it becomes this debate. And he very conveniently never mentions the brother thing, which is brought up at the start of episode 10. When, of course, we have the big cliffhanger at the end of episode 9, where it turns out Jessica is working for Rittenhouse, and she kidnaps Gia, and steals the time ship.
Yes.
And that's how we end the episode. And I really like the effect of Wyatt being up the stairs at the ship when it goes away, and he gets blown back when the ship...
No, it's true, it was nice, yeah.
It's just a nice little moment. I feel like we've not seen anything like that before. And... yeah, so I mean, that's really the big thing here, is that leading into episode 10, where even though they did go back in time to a time period, it's all about the main plot. It's all about the fact that Gia was kidnapped, and it's all about dealing with that in some really fun ways. It's very Back to the Future, actually, and how they deal with the fact that Gia gets kidnapped, she's held captive by Rittenhouse, and they actually make a point of saying that she's a badass when they go back, and she's been there for 3 years, but she's already a badass before she leaves. She, like, takes out the guard, she chokes out with the bed sheet.
Yeah, no, it's pretty well handled, isn't it?
That was badass. And then she, like, runs off for the ship, and it's basically the lightning strikes the DeLorean at the end of Back to the Future Part 2. You know, when Emma's shooting at her, she hits some of the controls, and when she tries to travel back to the base, it takes her to, was it 1885 or something?
Yeah, it tries to land. It's kind of there, but then it's like, nah, we're not having this. And
yeah, the alarm's going off. They're sensing it coming in. All the
there's like a weird an invisibility ripple effect where it's going to appear, and then it just doesn't.
And it's like, okay, how do we find her? And how do we get back? And it's like, well, she can leave us a message in history. So sure enough, they do. And it gets to, it's like, okay, right, she's in this book. And she wrote a hidden message in Klingon, which, of course, Rufus speaks.
And reads.
Because, of course, he does.
I think that's more impressive, because speaking it is one thing, because you hear it more often than you read it.
I mean, I can't tell you a single word in Klingon, but sure.
Nor could I, but I'm just saying, at least you hear Klingon more.
Okay, sure. That's the thing, though. I feel like I know that they've made it into an actual language. Like, someone actually wrote a dictionary and like made it work, but I still kind of just assume when I'm hearing it that it's just gobbledygook.
Yeah.
Like most other made-up languages in sci-fi shows.
No, it's true. They put something into it, though.
But I'm also someone who thinks most languages that I don't understand sound like gobbledygook, just because that's how they sound to you.
Even like I can think of like the languages in Lord of the Rings. Like those are full-fledged, proper languages, even more than Klingon is, because that was the whole point. Like Tolkien was a linguist. He created the languages and then wanted a story to put them in. And I still look at them and go, nah, whatever. It's just letters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's like you can't understand it. So, and that sets up the whole thing where she's left these messages in time. It says, don't come for me, but of course they're not going to not come for her. But the fun part, of course, again, very Back to the Future, reminds me of Part 3 a lot, is that she leaves the time ship hidden somewhere so that they can get to it 130 years in present day. They can go find it. And you've not seen Back to the Future Part 3, so this is all going over your head.
It's fine, I understand what you're saying. I don't need to have seen it to understand the reference in context.
Sure. And they find the ship, and it's about, okay, we need to go back and get her, and we see what she's been like. We find out, oh shit, she's been here for 3 years, we didn't come back right afterwards. She's been here living for a couple of years, and they have to deal with that. And the finale did do a lot of surprising little things that I was not expecting, because we've had this whole like Emma's pissed off at Lucy's mom for interfering every time Lucy's involved. I was equally like impressed and surprised when she just turned, like, because she almost shoots Lucy when they're hiding behind the curtain, and she like jumps in and stops her from doing it, and Emma just goes, you know what, screw this, and just shoots Lucy's mum, and she dies.
Obviously this is the follow-up where Lucy's mum was speaking to her grandfather, essentially it's like, hey, Emma's not Rittenhouse. She's not family.
Yeah.
She can't be trusted.
Stop thinking with your crotch, which is a weird thing to say to your grandfather, as she points out. She acknowledges that it's weird to talk about that, but here we are. And it's like Emma's been like cast out, but Emma's done this thing where she's become the big bad now. She not only kills her, she kills him as well. Like, it's like, no. And it kind of works for me because she was easily the one who had the most interesting character out of all these Rittenhouse characters.
No, that's true.
So, no, it works. It makes sense that she's the one that we stick with. Because I think if they had casted her out and we'd been left with Moira Queen and her grandfather, I would have felt kind of like, well, okay, fine, but we just lost the one who was interesting.
See, this is the thing. I think she's a more interesting character, but Lucy's mother's more interesting in a story for it to be more personal, to have the personal rivalry with her daughter.
Oh, sure, but we've exhausted that now, right?
I don't know.
Well, we have the death, and Lucy's all like, give me a gun, even though she can't shoot. I like that. I like that she goes to shoot Emma, but she's such a shit shot that it takes like 5 bullets before she clips her. I like that. I was like, yeah, of course she's not good at it. She shouldn't be.
And it's an old-timey revolver gun, right, as well. Yeah. It's not like... It's not aimed perfectly.
I have to admit, I laughed because there was a point when they were fighting each other just sort of hand-to-hand, and it was really funny, not because they were doing anything wrong, but I don't care what they do, 2 people fighting on those big puffy dresses from the time period just can't help be a little bit silly.
No, I agree.
Because they're kind of they're throwing each other into the walls, they're slamming each other into the ground, but it's just these big giant skirts that are like,
Yeah, they basically have a little air cushion every time they swing.
So it felt inherently a little bit silly, but I mean it's not their fault, and it makes sense that they wouldn't stop and like change into appropriate attire. They just want to go swinging, but but I liked a lot. I liked that Wyatt and Logan, or sorry, Wyatt and Flynn, they like almost for the first time have a bit of camaraderie, because they're kind of against each other throughout the episodes, as they usually are. But there's a point where, okay, Emma's here, Gia's convinced Rufus is about to die, and they're having their whole exit thing, and like it's like, okay, right, so the clock strikes at 7, and then you get stabbed, the guy sneaks up behind you, and all this stuff. And I liked it when it came down, okay, we're all kind of screwed. Like, it kind of felt like, Wyatt for the first time turned to find, okay, it's you and me, we're the soldiers here, let's do this. And he comes up with a plan, and it felt for the first time he actually trusted them to be like, okay, have my back, let's do this.
Yeah. No, it's true. It was like, well, you're here now, let's make the most of it.
Yeah. Also, we've been theorized. I think we theorized a lot last season before we actually saw Flynn's like parents and stuff in the flashbacks, or I say flashbacks when they went back to that time period. Is the more accurate way of saying it. I'm still kind of convinced there's going to be a swerve as to how he's related to Lucy in some way.
Do you think?
Yeah, it was because he was about to tell her something in this episode, and he got cut off before he did, and it felt like, if not, he's secretly someone that connected to her, at the very least, like, what their relationship is when he meets future her or something. I don't know, there was something about to come out that got interrupted.
Yeah, I'm not sure what. Like I say, I know we were theorizing a lot about the family thing, but then they kind of put that to bed, so now I don't really...
They did, yeah. They'd have to kind of go through a few hoops to make it work if it was going to be like, oh, it's your grandson now, or it's your...
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's possible, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like, oh, they put him up for adoption in the past to like hide him or something. I don't know, and that's how he's got other parents or something. I mean, there's ways they could do it if they want to really go down that path.
There is.
But I liked all this, and then obviously Gia saves Rufus.
Yeah. First of all, can we talk about this whole thing with the vision? Like, what happened to the vision from before with the cowboys? I feel like I've been shafted a bit here. We spent 5 episodes building up this encounter that Rufus cannot go to this time period. This is where it's going to happen. He's invincible because I'm going to die with the man with the spurs on his boots.
He did have spurs on his boots.
Yeah, but it was. I feel like the whole thing was. Okay, no, it was. The scene that was described wasn't really this.
That's fair. I feel like they hadn't finalised what it was going to be yet, so we got like a really vague, like, quick flashes of it. It's not until the finale where they've actually shot it and went, okay, here's what we're going to do with
it. Maybe, but
which is a fair critique. Don't get me wrong. I'm not disputing the critique here.
I felt like all the things that we've been told about it, like I said last week, maybe it's not quite that time because I speculate that maybe it wasn't as accurate as we thought.
Yeah,
but
we were. I think we were speculating
completely different.
Yeah, I think we were speculating they'd swerve it and say that they're at like some sort of like reenactment, but it's present day or something like something like that where they're all dressed a little at this time period, but they're not actually.
Yeah, this just felt so different that it kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, did we change the vision? Like, I know she got more of the vision, but...
I mean, I think that's a fair complaint. I also don't really... I mean, I'm not that pissed about it. It's kind of fine.
It's fine in this episode. I just feel like it's weird given that we spent all this time building it up, and then it was just this seemingly entirely different thing. But
we actually, we get Rufus killed. He gets shot. Emma shoots him, and he dies anyway. It does that whole thing where, kind of like Rufus did with that guy who got hit with the cart. It's like he stopped the thing from happening as it was going to, but then he get killed anyway. And it's like, okay, are we actually doing a big dramatic moment here? Is he gone? I mean, it's the season finale. Like, this is the time to kill off a main character if we're going to do it.
Yeah, especially as they point out, G is trained up enough now as a pilot. That's why they steal her in the first place.
Yeah, trained up enough as a pilot. Also trained with the visions. Let's go back to episode 9 here a little bit and talk about this opening up a can of worms. And I like this actually. I'm all on board for Gia kind of like mastering these visions and being able to just kind of go into them when she wants to. I mean, the ex-pilot that was like in the hospital from Mason's time, like his whole thing where he's like, oh, you're actually traveling to the past and you're living time there, and that's why he's like obsessed and he treats it like a drug. He's addicted to just doing it, and that's why he's in hospital, because as Mason points out, he can't look after himself. He just wants to sit and go into his mind all the time with these visions. But she seems to have like a good hold on it, where she can do it, and she does it at the end of episode 9 before she gets captured, and she does it in the past at the end. So I think it's interesting.
No, I as well. She seems to have a lot of control as well because when she comes back and after Rufus is dead, she says to Connor that she tried searching all of history,
Yeah.
looking for him, and he's just not there. Like she can actually locate something in particular rather than just here's just a flash of something.
And there's a neat little tease there actually, because her eyes go back and she starts like flickering, and you see the hand come in and hold her hand, and I thought it was Rufus at first.
I did too, and then it's like, oh, Mason's here.
Yeah, because I thought it was like, oh, she's going back in time and she's going to be with Rufus in the past.
Yeah,
like, I thought that's what
well.
it was about to do, but it was Mason's hand, and and I like Mason being kind of the shit dad who's realised how shit he was, so he's trying to make up for it now. I really like that part of his character.
Yeah.
It works for me.
He's a lot of fun, isn't he?
Yeah, Mason's good. So no, all that stuff's good, and obviously Jessica herself, it's kind of like I'm off two minds about it. On the one hand, it was so obvious that she was probably going to turn out to be Rittenhouse.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other, the actual like kidnap and
it was good stuff. I think what's interesting to me about it is, where Wyatt says, I think it's to Lucy's like, oh, you think she's lying about all this stuff? About you think she's lying about being pregnant as well?
Which we guessed as well last week.
Yeah, we said maybe we weren't sure, and it doesn't really go out right either way. But Lucy's like, well, maybe not.
But they question it, and
they question it. Yeah,
it turns out that she actually is pregnant. Well, she's still claiming she is. Like she's actually
claiming to be, yeah.
But she has no reason to lie now, I guess. So, unless it's just so that
just so that Wyatt won't shoot her.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe she'll think that'll stop.
Because that doesn't. They're all shooting at her, and Wyatt's like, no, she's carrying my child.
Yeah. And obviously Flynn has actually, that was the other funny scene I loved, is when Flynn's like, oh, I heard about the good news, you'll make an excellent father, and Wyatt just looks like he wants to punch him.
Yeah.
He walks off. Oh, it's good stuff. I'm digging Flynn more, because there was a point actually when they get to Gia and she like hugs each of them, and then it's just Flynn is like, oh, Lucy, oh, Wyatt, oh, and obviously she kisses Rufus first, and then she's already with Rufus actually. Rufus came in earlier, and then like Flynn is just like, oh, hey Flynn, it's like, what, no hug? You're kind of like the uncle, I guess, now. And then Rufus is like, yeah, the creepy uncle.
Yeah. I'm so glad Flynn's around, though.
As am I. I think he adds a nice sort of wild card element to the main team. And I think having Jessica be like one of the pair of villains now actually works, because, again, it gives you back that personal aspect of it. It does,
yeah. It just switches it to Wyatt instead of Lucy.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. And of course, we've glossed over some of the episode 9 stuff with the actual Civil War elements, and there's good stuff in there where they're pretending to be like the Colonel Sanders outfit on Wyatt. Rufus pretending he's one of the house slaves, and them coming in and like try to like suss out who's the mole, who's the one who's got the future knowledge.
I like how the dude just has a book of, hey, this is what happened in the Civil War.
It makes sense though, because he would know where everyone is.
But you'd think they'd prep people before. It's like, right, okay, you do some history, but no, he actually just takes a book back with him. It's like, let me just check this chapter, see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. And there's a lot of nice moments here. Harriet Tubman, there's a lot of stuff with her and like standing up for herself and refusing to be, because is at one point when one of the soldiers like catches her with a bunch of the kids. And it's something to do with, like, he says, oh, know your place, and he's like, oh, she shoots him and says, oh, tell me once again, like, what my place is. There's a lot of stuff like that.
I think the most interesting stuff with her was the visions. They keep hinting, like, God sent me these visions, and it's kind of played as like a, whatever.
Yeah, it's all the time period. She's very religious.
And all the characters react that way of like, yeah sure, whatever.
Until, of course, she says, when I saw you come, it was kind of strange. You came out of a metal ball, and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's like that's weird.
I was actually wondering at that point, are these kind of like, is what Gia has like in like some sort of like different version of what she has now?
Yeah, maybe, but because that's the all those are caused by time travel.
Yeah, which obviously these aren't, but I'm wondering if like what Gia's tapping into is actually something that just some people throughout time have naturally tapped into.
Could be. I wonder if like some people are susceptible to it, and the time travel just unlocks it for some people. It's nothing to do with the whole extra seat thing being safe. It was that some people are just they have the capability for this. Yeah,
and someone pointed out in the comments, by the way, because we were speculating, because we hadn't heard about this rule about not traveling to the same time period you'd already been in. And in the comments, someone pointed pointed out that that was a rule that was set up all the way back. Like that was from day one.
Enough.
That was a
Well,
rule.
it's been a long time.
Something happened like to a pilot that tried it. It was like no mush.
I think it was just because they hadn't mentioned it in so long.
No,
it wasn't relevant, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. Is that it's just been so long that I'd forgotten that was a rule.
Which is why they probably reminded us of it last week.
But it makes sense though that it's a rule because they have avoided doing it the entire show, so it still lines up with what's going on. But that leads us to the big cliffhanger because Rufus dies. They come home, and obviously and by the way, I love that they reminded us like how close Mason was to him and how he saw him as a son, because they did that with Christopher when she's knitting and he's talking to her about it, and he brings up, life was like this before Mason, and I had different women every night, different party every night, but I was lonely, and it did a really good job of reminding you what Rufus meant to Mason, and so when he sees him not come out at the end, and he sees the look in Gia's face. And by the way, Lucy gets the shit kicked out of her in this episode. I mean, Emma beats her up. She's got a black eye from that. Earlier on, Wyatt accidentally elbows her in the face. Lucy goes through hell in this episode.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite moments with Lucy is after Flynn comes in and rescues her, basically, from Emma, and Emma starts running away. And Lucy just grabs Flynn's gun and dives and shoots like the rest of the clip.
Yeah, she's going for it.
Desperately trying.
It's good stuff. No, I liked all that. And just to go back, I liked that when they all realise Jessica's actually Rittenhouse and a couple of them give Wyatt shit, Lucy sticks up for him and says, "No, hey, look, he didn't know, there was no signs." And then he's like, "Actually, there kind of was one."
Yeah, he's basically going, "Hey, I lived with my mum my whole life and I didn't know."
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, beyond her having feelings for him, it just makes sense. She has experience to back this up. And actually, I really liked, there's another moment before this, when they first get back, and there's an awkward hug between them. Well, it was an awkward moment, and then she grabs him and hugs him anyway, because the hug felt very genuine. I actually kind of appreciated just how genuine that felt.
No, that's fair.
Because they have this sort of thing, oh, we're good, right? And yeah, we're good. And it was kind of awkward, and then he tries to walk past her, and she just sort of says, screw this, and she hugs him. And it's not romantic, it's not like, hey, I'm trying to kiss you and interrupt your marriage, it's just, look, we are good. Like, as much as we're having trouble saying it as if it's real and normal, but we are good.
Yeah.
I like that. So they're in a weird place. At the end of the episode, of course, they're sitting together, and he's like, I loved you, and I know I never said that, and maybe it doesn't matter. You don't have to say anything back, but I want it to be said that, I regret how things have went down, and so on. And that's when we get our big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Alarms start going off. We get the rocking cups and everything. It's like, wait, a time ship's coming in, but there's a time ship already there. And obviously, I think, is it the mothership? Are they coming here? Are we going to end in some big action cliffhanger? And it's the lifeboat. And it's funny because one of them says, "Oh, it looks like it's been upgraded." Because I actually didn't think that. I thought, "Oh no, it's the old lifeboat before it was 130 years old." I just thought it looked new.
No, there are extra bits on it.
It did. When I actually looked closely, it did. But when it first popped in, I was like, "Oh, it just looks clean."
Yeah, that's the first thing you notice. It's shiny.
Yeah,
but then
shiny,
I did notice extra chunks on it that weren't there.
And it's sort of I like how when it comes in, it kind of knocks the other one that's already sitting there off a bit. It's like, no, out of the way. We're here. And then the door opens, and I'm like, who's going to step through this? I didn't know. Part of me thought it was going to be Rufus, and it was going to be like, oh man, how did he come back? What's happening? How's he alive? And instead, Wyatt comes out with a beard, and Lucy comes out with sort of shorter hair, and she's got a shotgun strapped to her back, and it's this is like Mad Max, Lucy and Wyatt.
It is. They look like they've been through hell.
And she's like, well, you assholes, do you want to save Rufus or what? And then cut to credits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not surprised there's going to be a way to save him, right? That makes sense to me.
It does. Don't get me wrong, if they'd just left it as, okay, he's dead, I can buy that as well, because it plays. But it's also not surprising if you're going to bring him back. And it's a time travel show. And
if we get a season 3, it makes sense that he's the one, because I think that would make the stakes the biggest they've been, because Rufus is undoubtedly the most innocent and most heartfelt of the show.
Yeah.
Everyone likes him, everyone cares about him, and having him be the goal to try and save gives everything a bit of weight in that sense.
Definitely.
And obviously,
not just stopping Rittenhouse.
And obviously we're fascinated by, okay, they're now breaking this rule. They've obviously found a way to get around it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Is Gia in the ship driving? Have one of these two learned to drive? I mean, I don't know. You don't really get to see inside, right?
You don't. No, they just kind of... The door opens when they just step out. Yeah. I assume Gia's in there because it makes sense to me. But... Yeah.
By the way, I loved... See, when they were talking about... when Mason finds out, he's like... oh, we'll go back and save him. He's like, oh, we can't. We're already there. He's like, well, fine, I'll go myself. I'll drive the bloody thing. I know enough.
Saying it could be future Rufus in there because they're coming back to save him.
Oh, true. Yeah.
For this time period, they could be like, oh well, we'll save him for here, but we already have a Rufus.
Unless the path to save him has been so long and tormented that this is just the end of the plan, is them coming back and getting the help of the younger ones. Yeah. So it could be that too, though.
Yeah, I can see it going either way.
Yeah, I can see it going either way as well. So I'm annoyed because now I really want a season 3 because this cliffhanger's good.
It is a good cliffhanger.
I'm excited by Mad Max Lucy and Mad Max Wyatt.
Yeah, I want this.
Yeah, I really do. And I wonder if, like, Flynn's seen this and he's like, oh, I recognise this version of her. This is the one I know.
Maybe, yeah.
Or
I think it's more interesting if it's not, like, almost, or if it was like a younger version of her, somewhere in the middle.
Well, here's the interesting thing. We've always went into the past, but this version of them is from the future. This is the past to them. This is opening a whole can of worms in terms of what we think of as being the present and what we think of as where we can go now. Because theoretically, because they're from the future, they can bring our characters to their present, which is the future.
Yes, because we set up with Kennedy.
Exactly. Yeah.
The future.
Exactly. So, I think that opens a fascinating can of worms. What do we do with that? What else do we find out about the future? And here's the other thing that they could play with: is there more than one future, or is it open? Are there different possibilities? Like, do we really get going with all the time travel?
I think what's really interesting is obviously the ship can travel to the future because it does that every time it comes from the past back home.
Of course, yeah.
So, if it can then travel to the future from here, right? Like our future in 2018, wherever this show is deciding it's set these days.
Yes.
If it can travel, can that one travel further forward than the present to us? And if so, then does it get to alternate futures? And interestingly, if it can go to alternate futures...
Hold on. You lost me somewhere in the middle of that. Right. Explain what you're meaning again here.
So, right, okay, so there's a future ship that's come back now.
Right, that's come back to the present.
Determining that there is a future beyond what we were considering as the present. So our time ship, can that go to their future? Because... I
don't think so. At least based on the rules so far. It feels like the way the time travel works right now is that it can come back to the point of origin. Although, admittedly, that doesn't work perfectly because it always seems to be a few hours later. But still.
Right, exactly. That's why I'm questioning it.
But the way they've always treated it up until this point is it always just comes back to when they left, but in real time since they left, if that makes sense.
No, yeah. Like there's an internal clock on the ship.
Exactly, yeah. So it comes back to like the appropriate amount of time since they've left. So if they've been gone for 10 hours, they'll come back 10 hours later in the present day.
No, that's true. I'm just wondering if we can overclock it essentially and break.
I mean, maybe they can. Maybe they'll like tinker with it and that'll be a thing. But I don't think. But right now, as default, it can.
Okay, makes sense. I was thinking because of the way it is slightly ahead of where it left.
No, what made me think of the alternate futures things is you said, what if Flynn doesn't recognise this Lucy? And that then suggests, is there multiple future versions of Lucy? And therefore, what can of worms are we opening with that?
Yeah, no, that's true. I think, the fact that a future Lucy gave this to Flynn and say emotion is something we haven't really spoke about much. And I think that opens a can of worms in itself. We were talking about how Gia's visions gave a defined future, even though they were in the past. Mm-hmm. There's a similar argument to be said about Flynn meeting a future Lucy. To him, this is in his past, but it's in Lucy's future. It has to happen at some point. It's a paradox in waiting. She has to write the journal and give it to him. Otherwise, all this stuff that she's experienced doesn't happen.
Yeah, but I mean that's no different to anything else that they do in the past.
Right, but we've seen them being changed in the past all the time, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's no different to it in the sense that so Lucy came back from some point in the future, right, and did this. And okay, so it's kind of like how with Christopher last week, where all this stuff has to happen in her timeline that she's now in. She always knows that they're going to be there in the future at some point. Right.
But I think it's because this is our timeline. Because the timeline for our core characters never the ones who do the time traveling, that never changes. Their timeline doesn't. It's always stayed the same. nothing has changed around them.
Well, no, it has. They're just not aware of it until they get back.
Right, exactly. But that's my point. Is to them, nothing changes in their minds. Their timeline is consistent. So they learn about these changes. So, but if Lucy decides at some point, you know what, I'm not going to go and give Flynn this, right? You know, it's because it's not. Whereas everything before that's changed is a case of they go and do some time travel and then it affects things. So here in our present, you know, she has to at some point make that decision to go back and do that. She can't decide not to do it, because then all this stuff with her and Flynn does Flynn just blink out of existence in the show essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is necessarily anything new in terms of the thinking.
No, okay,
because I feel like that is ultimately going to be a thing. Is when does she decide to do that, right? Like, I feel like that's always been kind of like hovering.
No, it's true. I'm just thinking of the way it sets up. It's slightly different because, you know, again, this is typically our point of origin. This is our present, and they've always gone back and then come back. You know, they've gone back to the past and come back to our present and gone, oh, things have changed around us. Whereas, because Flynn is there, something has been impacted from their future to affect Flynn. It always has to happen because.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I think that's been in place ever since they revealed that there was a future Lucy.
It has. It was just something we've not really spoken about, and you know, just talking about this future versions of them now.
Yeah.
And you know, alternate timelines essentially is like, okay, how does this play out?
Yeah, no, I think that's always been something that's been kind of in the show, even if it's not something they've directly addressed as of yet, because it's always like, okay, so we're at the perspective of our characters and where they are in this timeline, but you know, we know that in the future they could come back to any of these times. At least, well, not in the sense that, because obviously we had the rule that they can't go back to a time period they're already in, right? We've heard that, but like, you know, like theoretically that was always a possibility. So it makes sense that they're still traveling in the future back to different times.
No, it does, yeah.
And now that we've established they can travel to the same time, I wonder if we do get some true Back to the Future 2 style episodes next year. If we get us next year,
go to events we've already been to.
Yeah, and like see them from afar and sort of intervene and like help change them a little bit. And what does that do to their memories? What does that do to like what they've already done? Like, there's a lot to play with if they want to really go down that rabbit hole. But no, it's fascinating stuff, and I like the cliffhanger. I'm worried we're not going to get any more of it, but hopefully.
Yeah, 50-50 is, you know, reasonable odds for TV.
I'll take, you know, another 10-episode season. Although I would say, treat this one like you're not getting another one, guys. Give us an ending next year if you get one.
yeah, and also I would say, just to talk about the season as a whole a little bit, I would maybe pace it a little better. I think I mentioned this last week. It feels like we did, you know, 8 really standalone adventures, and then you know, just this.
Yeah, less standalone adventures next year makes a lot of sense. They should probably go full serialized. That said, I can see this new door opening from having like future versions of themselves kind of, because you know how like this year they became like, okay, they're not part of the official line anymore. They're now underground. They're now trying to stop Rittenhouse. Now Flynn's on board. I feel like we might get standalone adventures, but they complete like the context around them might have completely changed again.
That's fair, and I'm okay with some standalone adventures. Yeah. I just think we went too long with it this season before, you know, because we didn't really delve into this stuff till right at the end.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And it's you know, again, I've enjoyed all the episodes individually. It's just a little disappointing as a season overall to not have spent a little bit more time really getting at this stuff.
Yeah, you kind of feel like it should have done the Fringe thing where Season 2, or even the Buffy thing, where Season 2, the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, just to give it its proper due, where the second season kind of becomes a bit more serialized, and it starts to, as it gets more into the show and more into what the mythology is, it starts to sort of get less and less like, you know, villain of the week.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, definitely.
That makes sense, and I could see them shaking up with the Season 3, which hopefully they get. Hopefully we're back talking about this next year.
I am very hopeful, yeah.
Because it's good stuff, and I actually really enjoyed the last episode because it wasn't dealing with anything else. It was just about, oh, we need to save Gia, so that's why we're going back in time, and that's why we're doing this. It's not just, oh, Rittenhouse are trying to like take out another important figure.
Right, I think that as much as, you know, Season 1, the standalone adventures were, oh, Rittenhouse have gone here, let's chase them. Season 2 is, okay, Rittenhouse have planted sleeper agents, let's weed them out.
It was actually Flynn going somewhere in Season 1 that this
You're
chase
right.
him.
It was.
Yeah.
But then, well, Flynn was chasing Rittenhouse, so by extension,
Okay, sure.
just whatever. The point is, they were chasing. This time, there are set things where there are what's this week? Which one's next? Whereas I think to shift away from that and to have not be so reactionary, I guess, to have an active role in you seeking out what they're doing rather than just waiting for something to happen and go, right, okay, that'll do. That's where we'll go.
Which there's potential in doing with having future Lucy and Wyatt kind of driving the ship,
There is,
if you will. Not necessarily literally, but driving the ship as in the show being the ship, not the time ship. But no, lots of sort of opportunities, and hopefully they get to do them, because I would like to see more.
Yeah, definitely.
So there you go. That's the Timeless final 2 episodes. I know we can focus more on the overall arcing stuff rather than the individual plot of the episode 9, but it's kind of weird to talk about when we're so...
When it's over, yeah.
Yeah, we want to talk about all the time away with stuff with Gia and going to save her and what death means and possible futures because of the Mad Max versions of the characters.
I actually feel like, as much as our conversation focuses on that, I feel like episode 9 suffers because it's aired as a double with 10.
No, it does.
Like, it almost doesn't matter in context because you're straight onto the next more important part.
Yeah, it shouldn't have aired as a double. They should have let that sit on its own, give us the big cliffhanger of Jessica turning on them and kidnapping Gia, and let us wait a week, thinking
definitely.
about what that might be. Because I was almost ready to criticize it when I was watching it for Gia escaping too quick, and then it did the whole thing. She gets shot back into the past, and then I was like, okay, so that's cool because it made her look a badass. It gave her some good moments,
and it gives this is what the end of the season is.
This is what the plot is now for the rest of the season. But hey, so that is the Timeless Season 2 finale. So let us know what you thought of this and the season as a whole in the comments. Give us your thoughts on where they could go with Season 3. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV, guys. Have we got any vanilla?